Have you ever set goals and then never achieved them? I bet you have. And it's probably because you are setting goals maybe the wrong way. I am so excited to have my guest, Paige Clark, on the podcast today. And one of the things that we are going to be talking about is how do you actually set goals so that way you can achieve them and you can achieve them every time. And in thinking about setting your goals, how can you actually make sure that those are the things that are helping not only move your business forward, but also help you make sure your family life is not suffering because of the goals that you're setting? So let's dive right into this interview. I am so excited to have Paige Clark on our podcast today. She is one of my dear friends, and I just love her so much. And she brings just so much light to the world. So I'm so excited that I get to share her with you all. So welcome, Paige.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this.
Yes. So, Paige, tell us a little bit about your journey, your entrepreneurship journey that you've been on. Because, well, you're living in the most amazing place right now. And I know it wasn't always that way, but I'd love to hear kind of your ups and downs of how you got to where you're at.
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, I'll share my view because I'm in an office that has like a 180-degree lake view right here. And I kind of watch the kids play in the water, and I do my sessions from here all summer. And so I'm feeling pretty grateful, and like I've landed that I'm in a good place. And life is pretty incredible in the way that it gives you what you need to grow. But I've had a lot of experiences that have brought me here. And I was reading my entrepreneurial story, and it's funny because I was selling making candy and selling it on the playground when I was like in third grade. Like
So
I've
funny.
just
I did the
always,
same thing, Paige.
no way.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. There's so many things with you, Brooke, that I'm like, you're totally a soul sister. Because
Yes.
there's like our family traveled around the world for a year. Yours did too.
Yeah.
I did as a child, and you did with your own family, which is so inspiring. But yeah, there's like this entrepreneurial, it's just when I got divorced, it wasn't like what job am I going to get? It was just what business am I going to start? I just knew that. It was part of, and I just had these little businesses, ever since I was in third grade. I just would make candy or make baby wraps or make headbands. Like I just was always making something that I was selling, and then kind of moved into more of the coaching and mindset role. And I was a competitive athlete growing up at a national level. And so that's how I got into like the mindset work that I now do. And I actually started in psychology growing like in college, but it was I soon realized it was all about like mental illness. And I
Hmm.
was like, no, I just want people to reach their goals faster and easier. Like I want to do what I had with my sports psychologist that completely changed my game and helped me win nationals twice, and just helped me in such huge ways to just create a life that I love. Like that's what I wanted to do. But then once I saw what psychology major was all about, I was like, no, that's not what I want to do. And now, 15, 20 years later, I'm doing what I really wanted to do back then. And it's just so fun. It's so fun working with people to help them reach their goals and live lives that they love.
That's awesome. So let's talk, since you brought up goals, let's talk about goals because that's one of the things that we were talking about earlier is setting goals because it's different for men and for women. So I'd love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, one of the things I geek out about is like understanding men and understanding women. But one of the things that I've learned recently is that women are more likely to set goals, but they're less likely to achieve them. But a lot of the reason for that is because we're on the Gregorian calendar. And it starts in winter, which is kind of like on the natural cycle of things, just in the dark hibernation period where you're not in high movement, but also that it's a very masculine calendar. And so for women, we are on a 30-day cycle, right? 30, 28 days to 30. 2 days or whatever your cycle is. But we have different cycles, and we're more in alignment with the moon cycle, right? And so if women set shorter term goals, we are actually way more likely than men to accomplish our goals. So it's like there's so much to learn in figuring out and learning about ourselves, learning about our own cycles, learning about us as women. And we can actually do things in more effective ways. So we can just feel better, we can be happier, and we can be more excellent, right? Which is the game.
Yes, I love that. And that makes so much sense because, like, I've listened to lots of podcasts and had mentors, and all of them are men, and they all talk about like set your 3 or 5 year goals. And I always struggle with that because I'm like, well, I don't really know where I'm going to be in 3 years. Like even a year, sometimes that is too hard. But if I can set like 30, 60, and 90-day goals, like I get those busted out really easily. But that big, huge goal is much harder for me to even think about what it could even be. So I think that's
Yeah,
very validating to people that feel that way too.
yeah, yeah. There's total power in understanding ourselves and what works for us. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about meditation, about hypnotherapy, is you're going in and you're figuring out like what your soul's calling for, what your actual vision is for yourself, and what you can actually see within your own mind's eye, that then you can go and put into reality. And yeah, like time is a real thing, and playing with that and seeing what works. I know that for a lot of clients, I do like a 3 year vision, and it's more of just like see into that space. And actually 1 year is not as effective as 3 years. Like 1 year
Mm.
is too short, and 3 years and 5 years would be too long. But 3 years is a kind of place where you're like, you can see it. There's certain things you can see as attainable, but then pull all the way back into, and really it's like the day to day, like get the vision of the 1 month, like where do you want to be in 1 month, and then come back and just go into the today, what are my three big rocks, right? Like that's what I've really found in accomplishing goals is I can set these huge goals. I can set a goal for a year. I can set a goal for a month. And the month ones, like it brings things into clarity, but it really comes down to my daily big rocks, not even going, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do that. Because tomorrow some big windfall of something may happen, like especially as a mom, right? Like
Yes.
there's so many things. The kids may be sick, the dog may need to go to the vet. You may have to, like, you may even just get a huge sum of money that you like, you just your investment may have gone way up. Every day is so different that it's just like right now, today, what are the three things that I'm going to do to move myself forward into the dream that I have, right? So each day for me, I have this like light up sheet that I use, and it just has like my three top goals, whether it's a year goal, a 3 year goal, a month goal, but what's the three goals that I'm like really going for right now in my life? And then what are the three things today that are going to move me towards that? And maybe it's just one of the goals I'm focusing on today. But the thing about women is we're just fluid. We're open. Like that's the whole thing about the feminine, is it's being open and fluid. And so if we're set on one way of doing things every single day in a solid way, it just doesn't open us up to what's so powerful about the feminine, which is attraction and allowing things to come to us and allowing ourselves to be given to, right? Provided for, protected. Like this is the feminine. And that's the feminine way of doing things, that we can do it with so much more ease and grace.
I love that. And I love your example because I've never thought of it that way. Like I do my, like, what are my top three things for the day? But I love that you start with the big goals and then you look at, okay, from those big goals, what's three things I can do today to accomplish that one thing? And that seems much more achievable than even because sometimes people take, okay, here's your big goal. Let's break it down into 90-day goals, 60-day goals, 30-day goals, weekly goals, daily goals. Like that, that's a lot of reverse engineering. And then if you miss a step, or like you said, like something happens with your kids, you can't work on it that day, then you get behind. And then there's like the self-shaming and like this whole cycle that starts. So I love that that is like, it's so much more achievable and doable to just focus on three things. So is that something that you do like every morning as part of like your morning routine? You're like, okay, what are the three things that will help me achieve these big goals?
Yeah, it's part of my writing. And it's what I love is it opens things up. It creates trust in the divine, the universe, God. Like it opens it up to like, I don't know tomorrow what my three big rocks are. And I don't know how much of this like but those are my three commitments, right? And so it's like almost in tandem working with the divine. It's in my writing time with God, with myself, with, and so I'm really getting into like my morning routine is exercise and writing and reading, right? So um in the writing there's this meditation of kind of connecting, going through my gratitudes. But yeah, I really like this method because it's like it's bringing that back. I've spent the time to figure out what I'm totally committed to in my life right now, right? It's like relationship, family, and work. Like those are just my three big realms. And then I kind of just tune in and go, there's really three things that I can commit to in a big way. And sometimes it's like the three big ones, and then there's like three little ones on the side. It just kind of depends. But there's so much more fluidity in this, and there's so much more trust, right? And when we're creating in that way, it opens us up to receive more and to be working in tandem with the divine rather than like, I know what I want and I'm going to get it no matter what. It's like, I know that it's going to come to me, and I know that it's going to happen because I'm working and I'm doing and I'm committed to excellence in everything that I do. But that doesn't mean that like I'm making it all happen, right?
Right.
I'm I'm trusting that it's all going to happen because I'm doing my best.
Right. It's the opposite of like force. And I experienced this in my business too. Like when I first got started, I'm like, this is my goal. I'm going to go for it. And like you would try to force and then things wouldn't work. And one of the things I learned from living on a boat is like, you have to be in flow and you have to let go and you have to live in the present. And you do have to listen to your intuition. And that can be, if someone's not used to doing that, that can be a hard or even scary thing to like listen to yourself. So I know that you work with people and help them to like listen to their intuition. So what are some tips that you can give people that if they're struggling with listening to themselves and just following their gut, what are some things that they can do to kind of start tapping into that?
So I would say there's three methods. um, One is guided. So of course, having someone guide you into a meditation, into hypnosis, and really what's the difference between hypnosis and meditation? All I'm talking about with when I say hypnosis is getting into theta state, right? Theta state is where the subconscious is accessible, where the body's relaxed. You're in and out of it all throughout the day. When you first wake up in the morning, when you go to sleep at night, when you're driving and all your body's relaxed, and all of a sudden you're like at home and you're like, how did I even get here? Like we're in and out of this state all the time. If you watch TV, you're in theta. But you can also be in theta when you're in flow state. And that's kind of the key place to get into. And so anyway, when you're in hypnosis, you're in flow state, you're in a place where you can access and you can really start to get to know yourself, and you can start to see these. So it's easiest at the beginning, at least, to have a guide. The second one is to do writing, like I was saying. Like I just put my pen to the paper and just say, I write out, this is my question, this is what I'm struggling with, this is what and just kind of tapping in to my intuition, to my inner knowing, to the divine even, and letting that right through my pen. So, dear Paige, this is going on and you're doing great. And this is one of the solutions. Like it really just comes out through my pen. So, intuitive writing is a really powerful way to, if you're, especially if you're a kinesthetic learner and you're a kinesthetic person, like I'm a very embodied person. And so, getting into my body and writing is a way that I first figured out how to really tap into my intuition and my own inner knowing, and finding answers that like flowed out through my pen, which was kind of like magic. It was like, whoa, I have no idea what's coming out next. Oh my gosh, that's the perfect answer. Like it was just really a cool experience. So I've done that. And then the third way is meditation. And some people just, it's just getting still. Like you're into your inner part, the inner wise part of you that's in everyone. Like every one of us has this part of us that's connected to wisdom and love and unconditional love and all of that. And how do we tune into that? It's just getting still. You have to just come into your own breath. And I love the idea of surrounding yourself with white light and then just letting yourself be filled with white light. You know, I'm working with this incredible coach, Dave Austin, but I was reminded of that in his book. And there's just beautiful insights that can happen if we can just slow the heck down,
Yes.
get still and listen, right? So
Yes. Yeah. And I love that you mentioned the writing thing. That's something that I've been doing for a long time too. So I'll write down like, here's all the things that I'm struggling with. These are all the questions that I have. And then I change the color of pen that I'm writing. So now that like one, it was me putting out, and now the new color of pen is like, what's the information that's now coming in, you know? And that has helped so much. And it's so fun to go back like 2 years ago and read the things you were struggling with. And now you can see how God was working in your life and everything, and how you were given the answers that you needed at the time. So it's really cool to do that.
yeah. Oh, that's neat that you've done that. Yeah. It's one of the coolest skill. Like yeah, I started 5 or 6 years ago and it was seriously like my pen was magic or something. Like I was like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh. And I've been praying my whole life, but I think my brain's a little too ADHD to really get like really clear answers the way that
Right.
I got through my pen, my mind would just kind of start wandering, and I just tried that for so long, and it was just not nearly as clear and effective for me as when I do that. So
Yeah, was the same way. Or if I thought that I was getting answers of something I should do, that was like when I was maybe like laying in bed or something like that. Then by the time you get up and you get ready and you're on with your day, you're like, what was that thing?
totally, totally. Like when I was doing my writing, it'd be like this is, and I'm like, oh, here's my to-do list for the day.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah,
So yeah, I love that.
that's
And
awesome.
I'm encountering more and more people that are doing it and having just like incredible experiences. So yeah.
Yeah, it's something, if anyone hasn't done it before, I highly, highly recommend it. And it's one of those, I did find like I was doing it every single day. And then I was like, okay, I'm getting too much information, too many things to do. I'm like, I gotta stop for a couple days and like catch up, and then I'll come back to all this.
Right? Like I've been like, why don't I do this every single day? Like do a full God letter. And I'm like, I think it's a lot. It's a lot to receive, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's so neat. I'm curious about what you learned on the boat about, I feel like you could write a whole book about flow state from your time on the boat and using the wind and using your intuition, and like what an incredible practice, and so many just analogies and how to live life from that trip, right?
Yes, it definitely like it changed the way I operate, because I used to be very much like very go-getter, high achiever, like high performance, let's go get it done. And I had to learn how to be still. Like I would have moments before that I was still, but I'm learning how to like live in being still and live in that flow state, because you can't, like, being a planner, if you're someone who's like go go go, you know what you're doing next week, you know what you're doing next month, you know what you're doing next year. And I couldn't do that because it was all based off of weather. So you could maybe plan out your next 3 days, sometimes seven, but most of the time it was about 3 days that you kind of knew. And even when, like, we were in Grenada, we knew that we were going to come back to the United States. So it was about 2,000 miles, but we didn't know when we were going to get there. We kind of had a goal, but it was like it all depends on weather, and even we had times where we were in Martinique and we were planning on leaving, but there was a tropical depression that was coming through. So we're like, you know what? We're just going to stay put. So we stayed put for a couple extra days, so you have to learn how to be fluid like that and just go with the flow, and you go as fast as the wind will take you. We averaged about 5 miles an hour. So it was crazy when we finally got back to land, and my sister lived like, I think it was like 40 miles or something away from where we were. And we were driving in a car. And my kids were like, we could get there in less than an hour. Because normally like 40 hours, okay, or 40 miles, that'll take us half a day, you know?
Wow. Like talk about slowing down
Yes.
and right. And then there's this analogy of being in flow where it's like when it's go time, when it's time to like get the sails up and do all the
Mhm.
stuff, it's time to do that. And then it's just sit there and go
Yeah.
5 miles an hour and let the
Yep.
wind take you. Like it wouldn't help to paddle, but you
No.
could, right? Like you
Right.
could exhaust yourself, but that's kind of what we do is like you're you're on a ship. It's sailing. Like your business is going whether you're like paddling or not. But a lot of entrepreneurs, they're like paddling while they're going when it's not really going to move the ship any different. But
Right.
then when a storm's coming, they're sitting back and going, well, I don't know what to do. And they're not getting the sails down and they're not getting the things done that they need to do when they need to do it. So it's so much of like the timing of things and the flow of things
Mhm.
and and knowing what that is and knowing when it's go time. Like when I'm getting ready for a retreat, the 3 days before is just complete like I am the most efficient human on the face of the planet. Like, there's no human that's getting more done in a 24-hour period than what I'm getting done, you know?
Yeah.
And yet, but like, 2 weeks before, I'm in a normal cycle of a day and there's not that rush and there's not, and I'm kind of sitting and watching us go at 5 miles an hour, but 5 miles an hour over how long gets you back to America? Like
Mhm.
it's crazy how if you'd improve 1% a day, you're 365% return on your investment.
Right.
Most people would take that investment, right? But we
Mhm.
don't just do that for ourselves, right?
Right. Well, and the
So,
other thing that came to mind when you were talking about that is, even though we were just like sitting back, you still have to always be on alert. You always are watching for other boats, especially like when we were getting through the Bahamas and stuff, there was so many cruise ships and big, huge cargo ships and stuff, where we were used to like the ocean to ourselves. So we had to watch for that. You have to watch for like wind shifts because you can see those coming across the water. So there's different things that like you still have to see what's going on, but you're more like you're just observing and you're like, okay, when this comes, this is how I'm going to react. And it's the same in business when you can be in that flow state, but it's not just like you're sitting back and you're like, this is great. I don't have to do anything. Like that's not what flow is.
no.
Flow is you're sitting there, but you're also observing and you're seeing, okay, when is it time to take action? Just like when you're getting ready for a retreat, that's your time to take action. You know the signs of what's going to happen before that day comes. And 3 days before, that's the time to move into action. And then you can go back. And I think that's still, even though you're doing a lot, that's still being in flow.
Oh, yeah. Like you should see, I do the food for most of my retreats. Just I really love feeding people. So and I'm really good at feeding like 30 people, so it's like the way that I can make 4 different meals or 6 different meals, like in a kitchen, it's complete flow state. Like it is one of my like peak performance moments where I'm like Michael Jordan on the basketball court. Like this is amazing how it's just like I move from one to another and I get them all done and they're just like beautiful. So anyway, it's fun when you're in that place where you can be there. But yeah, that's the illusion, is that you're actually sitting back on your laurels and just
Right.
sipping margaritas like there. So that's when we traveled, there was what is in the water? Oh, it's a beaver. You have to see this. Can you see the beaver?
Yes. Oh, how fun.
I've never seen a beaver in here. Anyway, we got to look up the beaver totem. Okay, so what was I saying? Oh, when we were on our trip around the world, people were like, "Oh, you had like a year-long vacation?" No, it was like
Right.
complete insane amount of work for like 8 people to travel and trek across to 21 countries. But there is also the time to sit and it's observing. And when I think of like a CEO of a huge corporation, they have the big picture and they're observing and then they're going, this needs to be done, this needs to be done, this needs to be done, right? And that's basically in when you're running your own business, you have to get still, you have to watch and you have to be observant and you have to know what signs to look for
Right.
and then take wise action, right?
Right.
And one of my favorite sayings is like productive procrastination. Like
Mm.
I'm so good at that, where I'll stay busy and I'll think, oh, I'm doing something because I'm rowing, but it's not the most important thing, right? Like
Right.
that's why my 3 rocks are so important for me, because I can just go and I'll be busy all day, but like never actually stop and be still, never
Hmm.
actually stop and like do the most important thing that's going to move the my life towards what I want it to be. Yeah.
Right. Well, Paige, this has been so good. You have given us so many things to think about. And if people want to know more about, like, I know you do mindset work, hypnotherapy, you have these amazing retreats, how can they know more about you?
The easiest way is page360.com. So that leads you to all my social medias, to my website, to the retreats that I have going on and coming up. I have an event in Utah in August 3rd. I have another event September, the second weekend of September. I have a retreat. And then I have coaching packages. So if you want to just schedule a time with me and have a conversation, it's just go to schedulewithpaige.com and you can set up a time. I'd love to meet you and tell you more about the one-on-one coaching that I do and other things that I have going on. So yeah, thank you so much, Brooke. It's just so great to be with you today, and thank you for
Yeah.
having me on.
Yes, thank you so much. And everyone go check out Paige's stuff because she's amazing and can help you with following your intuition and tapping into who you truly are. That's the thing I love most about you, Paige. So thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom with us today.
Thank you, Brooke. Have an awesome day. Thank you, everyone.